Welcome to Module 1 of Marketing Rights and Relationships. The overarching purpose of this course is to help you identify scenarios in business and organizational context that may have ethical conflict. What we mean by that is many times in the routine of conducting business, especially marketing, we can have issues that raise some ethical questions. So in Marketing Rights and Relationships, what we want to illuminate or highlight throughout these modules, especially in Module 1, is what to expect when you enter a marketing relationship. It's especially paramount to marketing that we look at the notion of rights and relationships. First, the notion of rights. By rights, we have things like consumer rights, and we go back to the Consumer Bill of Rights introduced by President John F. Kennedy, trying to afford consumers some kind of countervailing power against very coercive or opportunistic procedures taken by marketeurs. And during the 1960s, there was a heightened awareness of unethical behavior in the notion of marketing exchanges between buyers and sellers. In particular, this highlights a very fundamental saying by Sam Piazza from PricewaterhouseCoopers. He said, "It has become dramatically clear that when we talk about the foundation of corporate integrity, it really lies upon personal integrity. When we talk about organizations, we may think of it as a collective. For instance, an organization or company is either ethical or unethical. But what we'll find throughout these modules is largely that ethicalness or perception is predicated on the collective behaviors and decision-making of individuals within the company and individuals who interact with the company." So who would be the general parties that interact with the company? Well, for one, customers. You may be a buyer of goods and services, and you may have encountered scenarios where you felt like you weren't treated very fairly. We also have suppliers. So if we go through the entire supply chain from manufacturer back to the resource producers. So we could go all the way through the channel of distribution and think about different kinds of conflicts that may emerge from the point of finding resources, entering into production for manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, sellers, and buyers. And that's where we really see all the different role sets coming into conflict and heightening the importance of looking at marketing rights and relationships. So when Piazza says that corporate integrity comes down to personal integrity, it makes it very important for us to understand what kind of scenarios would be predicated on making an ethical or unethical decision. Now, when we talk about responsibilities, do customers have certain responsibilities? It's something that we'll think about throughout this course. Do sellers have certain responsibilities? Again, it's something that we'll think about throughout the course. It is important in Module 1 to understand that the purpose of this course is not to tell you what is right or wrong. It's to help you identify scenarios and heighten your awareness of the role of ethics and social responsibility, of the role of marketing and society in your everyday business practice, consumer lives, and role as a student. Now let's get on to the purpose of this course. Why so much concern about rights and responsibility in marketing? Well, if we go back to the ontology or core of marketing, we say that marketing is based on the exchange process, and that's largely between buyers and sellers. Sometimes buyers and sellers' viewpoints and perspectives don't always match. In fact, if it's up to the buyer, they want to buy as much as they can at as low a price as they can. They want to get a fair deal. If we're sellers, we may be opportunistic. We want to get the highest price for the goods or services that we sell. So we can see an implicit conflict in this notion of exchange. As we move into contemporary marketing, we know that exchange is now transformed a little broader into the exchange relationship. And you hear a lot about relationship marketing and customer relationship management. Well, these practices in business and marketing really make it more important, because if we want to develop and sustain customer relationships, then we have to do so based upon a notion of fairness, trust, and this notion of integrity. Now, there have been a lot of breaches of integrity that we'll talk about throughout these modules. We'll talk about Sunbeam's Chainsaw Al. We'll talk about Fast Al and his role in Enron. We'll talk about Martha Stewart and how her marketing of Martha Stewart and Martha Stewart Living was largely impacted by breaches of not only law, but breaches of integrity. These things really tell you that our topic is timely and relevant to the marketplace today. Now, when we talk about this balancing act between buyers and sellers, there are two terms that are particularly important. First, there's the notion of caveat emptor, buyer beware. So very often, we told buyers to beware of the seller, to be alert, to make sure that they look at the notions of the exchange processes, whether they're contractual explicitly or contractual implicitly. What is the spirit of the agreement? But in fact, sellers also have caveat venditor. Caveat venditor means seller beware. So we have this buyer beware and seller beware. And a lot of this balancing act is based on codes of ethics. And that's one of the things that we'll talk about in a future module. So what do we mean by this notion of integrity? Well, that's basically the adherence to a code of especially moral, especially moral, and that's an important word, or artistic values. It's also defined as unimpaired condition, or the quality or state of being complete or undivided. When we think about these definitions, the ones who are most important to our discussion is the notion of morality. To what extent does morality play a role in contemporary marketing practice? And then the notion of whether or not integrity is ubiquitous, meaning is it generalized across all contexts? Is your view of integrity the same as the seller's view, the same as societal views? So we have different role sets that we play, whether we're an employee of a company, a customer for a company, whether we're tangentially related to the company as a stakeholder, or whether we're the company itself trying to market not only our goods and services, but our reputation. And we know that integrity underlies the business reputation as well. So when we talk about these impacts of society and social groups and firms, we know that there are different visions and viewpoints, different perspectives of integrity. My integrity may not match up to your benchmark for integrity. But PricewaterhouseCoopers did a very important study highlighting the importance of integrity-driven performance. And the reason this is so important is because it goes to the very fundamentals of the conflict between the role of business and marketing organizations in society. One perspective espoused by the famous Milton Friedman is that business and free market systems, the notion of earning a profit, is an ethical pursuit in and of itself. What does he mean by that? Well, free market systems and the notion of gaining wealth provides jobs and provides our society with a mechanism for people to gain goods, gain wealth, operationalize decisions through discretionary income. So Friedman espouses the notion of business in and of itself is an ethical and socially responsible pursuit. However, to counter that position, there's a very famous marketer named Ted Levitt. And that marketing guru, Ted Levitt, said, "Who with a palpable heartbeat and minimal sensibilities will go to the mat for someone to earn a profit for its own sake?" And what Levitt is saying is that business and marketing exchange transcends just the notion of bottom line performance. In fact, it's largely predicated on businesses and their stakeholders doing the right thing. You have to think a lot about this conflict when we relate it to the PricewaterhouseCoopers notion of integrity-driven performance. Integrity-driven performance, according to PwC, is a notion that the business will have better bottom line performance over the long term if it acts in an ethical and socially responsible manner, not only with its internal customers, i.e. its employees, not only with its stockholders, but also with its external or at-large community and societies, including customers. That's where we'll end Module 1 today, and in Module 2, we'll talk more about the framework for understanding this important divergence between the Friedman and the Levitt perspectives. Thank you.